If you're in your 40s now, let me give you a head start on what I wish I knew before hitting my 50s. Because this decade, it changes everything. Your body, your mindset, how you think about money. I'm in my late 50s currently, and I often call the 50s the power decade. We come into our wisest years. Our priorities shift, and our life usually looks a little different. And I'm grateful for this transformation. But honestly, I wish I had just nudged things along a little sooner in my 40s. So today's video is my gift to you, especially if you are an older millennial or a younger Gen Xer in your 40s. Here are 7 things I wish I knew then. 7 things so you don't repeat my mistakes. Okay, number 1 is don't skip exercise just because you're too busy. In your 40s, you may feel fine, but in your 50s, things are going to get harder. Energy drops a little quicker. Aches and pains, they last a little longer, and your body doesn't bounce back the same. If busyness has pushed fitness out of your life, I implore you to carve out some time now. Just challenge yourself. 100 squats by bedtime. Doesn't matter how you get them in, or 50 push-ups every day. Get at least 7,000 steps in each day. And don't sit for longer than an hour at a time. Get up and move around. A strong and active body in your 40s will make your 50s so much easier. Trust me on this one. And number 2 is driving a prestige car is such a waste. If you're making more money now in your 40s, the temptation to upgrade your car is real. I did it. I bought my dream sporty car. It was used, but still expensive. And the thrill of it lasted probably 6 months. But the payments and the repairs, they lasted for years. Just filling it up with gas would make me angry because it had to have premium gas. It had to have special tires that cost 4 times the amount of a normal tire. It was my most expensive car to ever own. And although it was a fun car, it just wasn't worth the hurt that it put on my finances. That car for me was a passion purchase. And passion purchases and practical purchases, they usually don't mix. And I know not everything you buy has to be rational. But when you start wanting something that doesn't totally make head sense, just tread carefully. Now, number 3 is stop caring what other people think. This one will free you. I've mentioned this before in a previous video, that in my 40s, I was embarrassed to go out and get a part-time job. And getting a part-time job could have really helped me out financially at that time. But I was too afraid that, my coworkers or my boss would see me, out working this other job. And it would scream, "Oh, Sherry is having financial problems." I have a dream in retirement of owning a tiny home or buying a van and driving cross country. But for years, I hid that dream from people because of fear of judgment. And by my 50s, I realized that it was foolish to worry about this kind of thing. Because now, I don't care about that at all. And I can just about guarantee you that you're going to feel that way in your 50s as well. Just ask others that you know that are in their 50s, and they'll agree. So if caring what others think doesn't matter in a few more years from now, then why should it matter for you now? The sooner you stop caring what other people think, the sooner you can start living the life you want. And number 4, outside of your health, make saving money your number 1 priority. This one hits with a lot of urgency. With today's economy and the way things are going, You can't afford to wait. And I am going to bet that you probably already sense that. Save everything you can. We currently live in a brutally expensive world. And I know for me that getting serious about my finances and saving money didn't hit until I turned 50. And of all the things on this list that I wish I could have nudged back a few years, before that, this would be it. If that means part-time work, paying off debt, renting out a room, do it now. If it means side gig, overtime, multi-generational living, do it now. Build as much cushion as you can. Your 40s give you lots of time to build momentum. Don't ever let that thought creep in your mind that it's too late. What I've been able to accomplish in my 50s has amazed me. But don't always count on that. Start now. Okay, number 5 is get your blood work checked. Don't wait for symptoms. Get your numbers now. Cholesterol, blood sugar, screenings, colonoscopy. In your 40s, you have time to reverse things. If you wait another decade, the internal damage that could be happening in there could be much worse. And also, you don't have to be resigned to the results that you get from that blood work. And you don't have to use meds as a first tactic either. And that's why it's better to know in your 40s, because you have more options. And it's good to already have that doctor-patient relationship established, because, if something does come up, that way you're not calling all over town trying to get in to see someone. And number 6 is don't take your bad habits into your 50s. We all have them, whether it's drinking too much, smoking, overspending, too much fast food. The habit that you'd love to quit. There's this nagging feeling, in your head or in your heart. Why not address this now in your 40s while your body is more resilient? It's not like it's going to get any easier to quit it in your 50s. And you don't have to stop cold turkey if you don't want to. Just start thinking about it right now. Start carving that path out in your mind. It won't happen overnight. But every small step, shifts your mindset toward that version of you that you want to be. And number 7 is find better ways to deal with stress. When we're younger, our bodies can absorb the damage. In your 50s, it starts losing a lot of that advantage. I'll never forget a few years ago losing my temper and shouting. And all of a sudden, my chest got really tight and it kind of hurt a little bit and it frightened me because I had never felt that before. And when it happened again, a few weeks later, when I lost my temper again, I knew I had to change. I couldn't just continue reacting like that. No more volcanic eruptions. In your 40s, start practicing better ways to cope. It's all in how we react to stress. Since we can't eliminate it from our lives, we have to stop letting things push our buttons. Now, I developed a bad habit of reacting that way and losing my temper for years. And I never knew how hard and how I was damaging my body doing that until I got in my 50s. Now, I don't know what pushes your buttons. It could be the news, someone in traffic, a family member, rage and fear and cynicism. They don't just poison your mood. They wreck your health and your relationships as well. Just think about this for a second. When was the last time you really laughed? And I'm not talking about like, ha ha, ha ha. No, I'm talking about really, really laugh. Like during an entire sitcom or an entire movie. reliving, funny memories with your family or your friends. That kind of laughing. Sometimes as you get older, those laughing moments, they get few and far between. So you have to kind of go find things on purpose. And I've got this, list of movies. I have them on DVD that I know I can pull those out every so often. And I'm going to kind of feel better physically and emotionally after I watch them. Okay, you want to know what some of those movies are? Okay. So, let's see. Any of the Austin Powers movies. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Really good one. Our family, we've always been Three Stooges fans, and there was a movie that came out in 2012, The Three Stooges, and it's really corny, but it's so good. It's so funny. It's so funny. And let's see, one more. Romy and Michele's high school reunion. Yeah, those movies, I just love them. Okay, as one of the first Gen Xers, I like to leave little notes behind for those that want to know what lies ahead. And I don't claim to have it all figured out. I'm learning as I go. But I do know this, that I've gotten a lot done in my 50s with discipline and motivation. My only regret is not starting these things earlier in my 40s. So tell me in the comments, are you already working on some of these? And my older Gen X viewers and younger boomer viewers, share in the comments something that I left out of this list. But before you click off, click on this video next. What it took me 50 plus years to realize. I'll link it right here. I hope you have a great week. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.